The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Hi, I'm Mary Rozak. Welcome to Albany County News. As a Director of Communications for Albany County, I find out all kinds of programs and services that are available throughout the county that many of you might be able to take advantage of or might be interested in finding out more about. And today is one such partnership that I'm going to talk about, and that is with Deb Riitano, the Executive Director of the Capital Area Council of Churches and also the Chair of the Albany County Interfaith Coalition. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm glad I've known you for years.
Yes.
And you are one of those people that when I say a partner with us, you've partnered with virtually everyone. You know everyone. You work with everyone.
God, I'm not sure how that makes me sound.
It makes you sound like, you are really a part of the pulse. You know what's happening in this community, and particularly with the religious community. I think people forget sometimes that what brings us all together, no matter what faith we are, no matter what we do, what we say, how we feel, religion ultimately is so personal and it is about us, and that's a way that we connect, not only socially, spiritually, but as a community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk to me about the different kinds of things that the Capital Area Council of Churches does and that you see, and how you have that relationship with the community.
Well, the thing that I want, before we get to the council, I really wanted to say, because your opening statement is so on target, because, and I will forever be grateful to the County Executive's Office and to Dan McCoy for partnering up with me so quickly when the Orlando massacre happened. Mm-hmm. And that was a scene, that was a snapshot of the broader interfaith community. Everybody flocked to that. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter the faith tradition.
Sure.
It didn't matter the political persuasion. It didn't matter. That hit everybody, and I think that we saw that very clearly that day, and for that I will forever be grateful to the county exec for having immediately responded.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's start talking with that, because if I'm thinking back to June and we're waking up on a Sunday morning, how very appropriate on a Sunday morning when we are gathering, many of us, to go to religious services, and we're finding out about this horrific act that happened in Orlando. I mean, take us back to that day and your reflections on finding out here in Albany. It was never really about, it was there and we're here, was it?
Never. It was never that. I mean, I, like everybody else, woke up, turned on the TV, and breaking news. And that was the beginning of, I keep calling June, the kaleidoscope of grief. Mm-hmm. And turned on the TV, saw what was happening, and knew very quickly that the religious community needed to come together quickly to help people mourn, but more so that we needed to give the LGBT community time first for them to come together. And as you will remember, a press conference was called that night. Mm-hmm. by the mosque, the Masjid al-Salam Mosque under Imam Albany, to talk about what had happened and to condemn what had happened. And then, we waited a day or two, and then the interfaith community came together at the Hubbard Interfaith Sanctuary on the campus of St. Rose, and to be together in prayer, and to be together, just to be together. I mean, people just wanted to be close and wanted to be able to grieve together, and that was what was so terrific. And the religious communities are very quick I think, to see that and to want to quickly minister to the needs of people, especially when it's grief. What was so wonderful was that the call from the county exec, we got to do something. That they were, he was so on it so quickly that I was just beginning to make phone calls when the phone call came, to partner up. And I think, and that very beautiful commemoration that night with both Bishop Howard Hubbard and Bishop Scharfenberger and leaders of all the traditions came and spoke, I think is what Albany does best. I think that certainly for years, those of us who've done interfaith know that, and it goes way back to when Cardinal Cassidy visited, who was the head of ecumenical and interreligious affairs for the Vatican, came to visit. And over a cup of tea, he said, there are two places in the world that the Vatican looks at when they want to know what's happening in interfaith work. One would be Detroit, and the other one is Albany, New York.
Really? Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. It's, as I think back to June and then to subsequent events through July, we've had a very turbulent because several months.
Just 8 days after that wonderful service that we did, that was colorful and candlelit and carried people. We had the burning of the pride flag in front of the First Lutheran Church. And that affected the members of the Damien Center, who are also located down the hall from me. And my office, too, is at the First Lutheran Church. The flag belonged to the First Lutheran Church. They put it up for Pride Month every year in solidarity with their community. And it wasn't 8 days that following our vigil for Orlando that happened. And once again, you saw everybody come together, this time in shock, that just 8 days later, you weren't even in the shadow of Orlando when, someone thought there wasn't enough bloodshed yet. Let's do this. And that was, that was a great sadness to us. And fortunately, we rededicated a new flag, and we were able to move on.
The community came back together.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't long after that, in the middle to end of July, that the county executive announced that you were going to be chairing this coalition. Let's talk about the coalition. I mean, it came about out of a very real need.
It came about a very real need. Again, it was a very astute on the part of County Executive Dan McCoy to see the need for religion to partner up with the government aspect of things, and to see that we really need the division of religion and politics has some very good there are very good things about that, but you also have to be very smart about where you're going to make this divide, because we certainly in the council or even in the interfaith community wouldn't be able to do the kinds of things we do if we didn't have the support on the political side as well. And we saw that. This interfaith coalition is...
it's got more than a dozen members.
It's got more than a dozen members. Every faith tradition is... we've got people knocking on the door saying, can I join? Can I join? It could become a very wieldy crowd.
And that's something that we talked about.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of trying to exclude anyone. It's just a matter of trying to keep it manageable.
Absolutely.
Right?
And people want to do it, because suddenly, they saw such gravitas with it. That this is making a difference. Being able to connect with the county executive's office and say these are very real issues that we all need to share in.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
that mission, the very mission, because some folks may not be familiar with the core. We're talking about how the coalition was born and how every religious, essentially religious entity is represented. But what is the crux of why you are together? What do you see as the
Well, this particular coalition. I'm particularly proud and pleased to be associated with, because these are folks that I have worked with over the years on very important issues, whether it was something that had to do with racism or LGBT or any Holocaust related, any kind of prejudice or bigotry. This is a crowd that knows that prejudice and bigotry can lead to a genocide.
Sure.
Can lead to a whole annihilation of people. We brought the Anne Frank exhibit here, I think back in 1992, to the College of St. Rose, and more than 4,000 students came through, more than 20,000 people. We had kids all week, buses driving up and dropping children off, and we brought that exhibit twice to show what bigotry and prejudice would do. So I've worked with a lot of these. I've worked with a lot of these folks on this, but you continue to see. You continue to see. You have to take the lessons of that. Of the Anne Frank exhibit, and fast forward to now, we see prejudice against LGBT people. We see, we continue to see racism in the African American community. We now are seeing Islamophobia everywhere.
Sure.
So to have a group that can work together, and so many people spoke that day and spoke about what it meant to them, the imam, the rabbis, the priests. Everybody spoke about how meaningful it was to pull this together under the umbrella of Albany County. It's quite extraordinary.
Well, County Executive McCoy, when we talk about Islamophobia, brought the community together and had more than one meeting and discussion with the Muslim community.
Yes.
When things started across the country to become a backlash. And I know that the community has embraced that. It's interesting that the very first act of the coalition was to talk to the county executive about holding a community conversation. And that community conversation, a Healing Moments conversation, as it was called, had been called upon by the President of the United States, saying to a national audience, we need to rip off the scab. Is that what these Healing Moments conversations, the first has been had, and I know there are more in the planning, is that really what the Healing Moments conversations are? Talk to me about the August 15th
I think so. The August 15th event, the very first Healing Moments, was, put it on the map. So much so that the Sidney and B. Albert lecture series that the College of St. Rose does, and I chair that committee, is also looking to, we use that as a springboard, and our event on October 20th is called An American Story, Racism and Reconciliation, and there'll be a panel to discuss that. Also from that, although we've had to reschedule it because we had some issues getting off on the date that we wanted to, the Stop the Hate Prayer Vigil, which went on every year for a long time here. We kind of stepped back a little bit because things had quieted down, and we didn't. But that's through Interfaith Alliance, and usually we partner up with the College of St. Rose, and we will reschedule that soon. We just had it scheduled too early in the school year for the kids coming back. And so that's coming forward. And this year, we really want people, every year we seem to have had a theme. It came to us, the very first one had to do with Columbine and what had happened at Columbine. Next year, I think we did something that had to do with Holocaust and survivors. 9/11. I mean, all sorts of things have come from that. This time, we have people speaking about what it's like to feel, to be that person who feels hate from other people, undocumented workers, police, somebody African American, somebody from the LGBT community. We had several people lined up that we hope will be able to tell their story, and that's exciting because when somebody gets a chance to tell their story, it begins the healing. I mean, we talk about the healing moments. We talk about racism in particular. Well, had we taken care of this 300 years ago, we wouldn't be doing this today. It's very exciting to see today the opening of the National African American Museum, and as part of the Smithsonian in Washington. The pictures of it were great as yesterday in the New York Times. Certainly today, watching all the activities there, and I look forward to being able to convene a trip
sometime in the spring.
Right? For us to be able to go down there and go together there, and possibly be able also to have a program with Georgetown University in what their first steps are in trying to heal a wrong. And I think that's I'm hopeful we'll be able to do that. I know we can pull that off and get that done, and I really look forward to us being able to do that, because that'll be one more step in the journey of what it is that we want to do.
We're talking today with Deb Riitano, the Executive Director of the Albany County Interfaith Coalition and the Capital Area Council of Churches. Deb, we're going to continue talking about healing moments and that August 15th College of St. Rose event. The county executive stood up, welcomed a panel on steroids, I like to call it, because there were 16 very engaged people. Rex Smith from the Times-Union moderated, about 200 people in the audience. A summer morning where people came out and really respected each other, wanted to talk about divide, wanted to talk about the issues that they were hurting about and hurting from. And yet at the end, I mean, it was uncomfortable sometimes. There were uncomfortable things that were said. How important is it? I know the president said, we're going to feel awkward sometimes talking about this. We're going to feel awkward when we're talking about race. We're going to feel uncomfortable when we talk about community policing in some instances. You walked away feeling how after that forum?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I'm writing something for my newsletter about it. It was a great kickoff to begin to have this conversation. Having done Interfaith so long, we've had lots of very uncomfortable conversations among the faith traditions. And I spoke very little. I was on that panel. I spoke very little, but it was hard to keep up with the things that you were hearing, because you had to be really conscious of your environment. Because when I walked out of there, I thought, I have 6 children. And yet, to hear Aaron Mayer say, here's the talk I had to have with my kids, what to do if the police stops you. That was hard for me as a white woman whose children went to Albany Academy and Albany Academy for Girls, to think I didn't have any questions. I didn't have that conversation with my children.
Sure.
Nor did it ever occur to me. Then to hear when you drive into neighborhoods that you might think are marginalized or maybe dangerous, the minute you drive into that neighborhood, what the African American community is hearing click. They're hearing the doors lock.
Right.
There's that immediate mistrust on the part, of whoever's coming through the neighborhood.
I recall someone standing up and saying that she had been in a local store, a woman of color with her small children, and immediately the clerk said the children couldn't be running around, and someone else was holding their bag closer to them.
That's right.
And I remember hearing that and feeling uncomfortable and thinking, this is what someone deals with.
Yes.
Just going to the store.
Yes. I mean, it was, I mean, I was laying in bed that night and doing the examination of conscience for the day, and thinking that was so powerful to me, to hear those words, and where was I guilty of that? How was I guilty of that? And you know what? I was guilty of that. I do drive in Arbor Hill and lock the door. I had done that, and I worked there. It was, and I have to tell you, it's a great neighborhood. I worked on First Street. A lot of people don't want to drive down First Street. I worked on First Street and loved it. Loved it. In fact, when we started through the Council of Churches, the Kids Lunchbox program, we chose to start there in West Hill, Arbor Hill area to bring the summer lunch to kids. And it's a mobile lunch program. Mm-hmm. And we have a whole cadre of interfaith volunteers who come and help pack up the bags, for the kids. And we have several people who are committed to getting on the truck and getting out there. And it's old-fashioned grassroots organizing. Mm-hmm. Which is really what makes it fun. But, the minute you show up on the street and you say, we've got lunch, free lunches for kids, and, people come out and they're thanking you and they're blessing you and they're taking a lunch, their kids are taking lunches and the kids are hugging you. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful gig, I have to tell you. Mm-hmm. And we certainly hope, this was our second year doing it. Last year we had delivered 3,075 lunches. We just go twice a week for 7 weeks. This year we had 950 more lunches to add to that, so we did over 4,000.
Wow.
And so, we see the hunger there. We were able to actually, while we were taking care of the kids, we were able to hook up with some senior citizens. We have a Seniors on the Go program, and we're doing a West Hill project that we have collaborated with Statewide Senior Action Council. And we were able to help folks access some entitlements and things that they need and get them some help with bills and other kinds of things that they were having trouble with. It's a great neighborhood. We love going there, and we hope that our programs will continue to flourish there.
Well, let's talk about, since you are talking about different programs, let's talk about the Capital Area Council of Churches.
Yes.
And the different programs that you offer. So you one end of the spectrum, you have, feeding the kids. The other end of the spectrum, helping seniors.
Yes, we do. We also have, we have other programs. A lot of times you look at these organizations and they'll either be a faith and works component, or there'll be a faith and order component.
And what does that mean, faith and order?
Well, more of, talking about theology and this is the way we do things. And not so much of the social action stuff. We've kind of taken a left turn now and have gotten more into social action. So we started a senior program. We started the kids' lunch program. They always had, they were also always partners with Reverend John Miller, who was the former executive director, and Reverend Vern Victorson from First Lutheran before he retired, a homeless shelter, an emergency overflow shelter.
Okay.
And of course, John Miller died, and Vern retired from the church, and it left the Capital Area Council of Churches ministering to the needs of those homeless. And these are unique individuals. These are people who are not welcomed into other shelters for whatever reason. So we have the emergency overflow. And, it runs from November until April. Wonderful, our goals are small. We can't help people change their life unless they're ready to make a change in their life. We understand that happens. So, if we can keep them safe for one night, off the street, out of the cold, warm bed, great meal. All the meals are great there. That's what we look to do, and we've been very successful. We provided over I think 3,000 bed nights last year.
Wow.
For those on the streets, and we're the emergency overflow. I mean, we're not the shelter.
Sure.
We're just emergency overflow.
Sure.
So we have a great program manager and good people who work there. People with big hearts, wanting to help.
We've talked about a lot of different things today, and our time is running short. Is there a website or a phone number that you would like to give?
There is a website that we're continually fixing, but it's capareacc.org.
capareacc.org.
Yes,
okay.
and the phone number for the Capital Area Council of Churches is 462-5450.
Okay, one more time.
I hope this is correct. 462-5450. I always confuse it with the College of St. Rose Campus Ministry.
Oh, gee. Well, you know what?
Because I never call my office.
I'm sure. I know when people ask you for a phone number, that's always the way. Deb, there's a lot of stuff going on, though, in the month of October, in particular. So the calendar must be, I'm assuming, up on that website, or is that constantly changing?
Yeah, it's constantly changing, but yes, the big thing that and very important conversation will be the next one that's happening at the College of St. Rose on October 20th with the St. Albert board. Okay. So, we get large crowds that come to that, and that's the next thing up to bat. And as I said, we'll be rescheduling to Stop the Hate, and that's a great opportunity for people to come together.
Okay, wonderful. Deb Riitano, Executive Director of the Capital Area Council for Churches and the Chairman of the Albany County Interfaith Coalition. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
You have heard about so much today, particularly the Healing Moments conversation that we talked about. If you weren't able to go, but you want to hear about what happened, see what happened, you can see a video on our website, albanycounty.com. If you go to that main page and click on the videos, there's actually a box on that webpage. You can click on that and see just what you missed and maybe be a part of our next conversation. There's another one coming up very shortly, and a third with student participation at the end of October. So check albanycounty.com to find out more. This has been Albany County News. I'm Mary Rozak. I'll see you again soon.